Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's begin by singing hymn 395, Sing and Rejoice. We'll sing it through twice. Please rise and body your spirit.
Please join me in the chalice lighting words. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together, we care for the church and each other. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Melissa Rowland. I am light-skinned and in my mid-40s. I present as female. I have long brown hair with natural gray streaks, and I'm wearing light brown pants and a multicolored top. I give this description to assist anyone with visual impairments. I learned it in GA. We'll talk about that next week. I serve in the mission of this church as president of the board, and this morning I'll be your worship associate. Reverend Jenn Gracen is our interim minister. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome you just as you are. We welcome all genders, all abilities, all sexual orientations. Please put your electronic devices in worship mode and welcome. Please open your hymn to 298 and stand as you're willing or able.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth roar. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation around. Giving grace, sleeping as love shows us how. Wake now my reason and bring to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the truth. Honor the beauty and wisdom of God. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Break now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your Maker all stranger and friend. Praying and striving their hardships to end.
I invite you to join me in reciting the Affirmation. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
At this time, I'd like to invite you to come up and place a stone in the sand for any joys or concerns that you may have in your heart today. If you have any joys or concerns you would like us to share from the pulpit, please provide a note at the bowl of sand and we'll share them. And if you're online today, you can post them in the chat and we'll get them that way. We placed one last stone in the sand for joys and concerns not recognized today.
I invite Ashley and the children up for the story for all ages.
Good morning. So as she said, my name is Ashley Rhodes, and I am in charge of the children's programming here. And today we have a book called Julian is a Mermaid. Actually, yeah. And I have it in my lap, and they're going to see it on the screen. So you can look at whichever one you want. This book is by Jessica Love. I want to make sure I'm matching. This is a boy named Julian, and this is his abuela. And those are some mermaids. Do you see the mermaids? Yeah. Julian loves mermaids. Do you guys like mermaids? Yeah. Yeah. Look, he's imagining. What do you think he wants to become? Yeah. He wants to become a mermaid. Look. Yeah. Look, what did he become? Look at that beautiful fish. Now, remember what the fish is holding, okay? What's the fish got? What does the fish have? Okay. Vámonos, mijo. This is our stop. Abuela, did you see the mermaids? I saw them, mijo. Abuela, I am also a mermaid. I'm going to take a bath. You be good. So what happens when someone tells you to be good sometimes? Let's see what happens. Julian has a good idea. What's he doing? He made himself some hair. Ooh, look at that curtain. Does he look very happy? Yeah. What do you think his abuela is going to do? Meredith says she's read this book before. She knows what's happening. Oh, look at abuela's face. Uh-oh. Oh, Julian's not sure. Come here, mijo. What does she have? What is she giving? A necklace. Do you remember the fish? For me, abuela? For you, Julian. Where do you think they're going? Where are we going? You'll see, says abuela. Mermaids, whispers Julian. Like you, mijo. Let's join them. Look at that one over there. And they do. And that's it. That's the end of the story.
Yes, the cover page is them in the pool, and then the last page, the first page is them in the pool, and the last page is them all as mermaids in the pool.
So the first page is them in the pool, and the last page is them as mermaids in the pool. Yes. All right, shall we light our chalice to take with us? Okay.
As we leave this friendly place, amid light to every face, may the kindness which we learn, guide our hearts till we return.
To begin our spoken joys and concerns, we hold the tragedy in Hawaii in our hearts as the devastating effects of climate change take lives and destroy what is precious. Thank you. Still getting the hang of all this. And we have a few spoken joys and concerns to share. Edie says, a month ago, Ronald Kreiser, thank you, had surgery for appendix cancer. He's still having a great difficulty eating and has lost a lot of weight. And 10 days ago, her daughter-in-law, Pulma, had an emergency hysterectomy requiring 5 transfusions. Since then, she's developed pneumonia and has been put on a respirator. Her son Dan is en route to Germany to help her son Curtis and Pulma and Lula, who's 5. And healing for the people of Maui. And Carol Fensel is at Christ Hospital, recovering from being knocked down by a patio umbrella and table caught in a wind gust at her condo pool yesterday. She has a pelvic fracture, isn't running around, but is relieved she doesn't need surgery, thank goodness. And Charles says, please hold my brother Ambrose Spencer in your hearts as he faces increasing vision loss. I'm so sorry, I should have checked that. All right, I invite you to join me in holding those and all of the spoken and unspoken joys and concerns in your heart. And as we move into a spirit of prayer and meditation with these words by Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, may your presence be known with us and in us and among us. Also, I'm sorry, I missed one. Chris and Claire Wagner were glad to have hosted 2 Venezuelan immigrants for 8 days, and also were made aware of the depth of need for emergency housing for citizens as well as immigrants in the area. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, may your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your spirit, manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Divine music of the universe. Let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice, source of stars and plants and water and land. Open our hearts to all our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So be it. Blessed be. Amen. As we move into our offering, I share these words of Caleb Parker. We know our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this church. May we give and love and hope.
Thank you, that was beautiful. Our reading today comes from Lord of the Rings. And when I printed it, certain words were omitted, so I apologize. The original version of this song was recited by, I believe, it was from The Hobbit. And this is a song that was sung as he was returning home from a long journey. Roads go ever, ever on, over rock and under tree, by caves where never sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter shone, and through the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, and under mountains and the moon. Roads go ever, ever on, under cloud and under star, yet feet that wandering have gone turn at last to home afar. Eyes that fire and sword have seen, and horror in the halls of stone, look at the last on meadows green, and trees and hills they long have known. The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it began. Now far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with eager feet until it joins some larger way, where many paths and errands meet, and whither then I cannot say.
When I was a teenager, my father lived very close to a lake. So one day, a teenage friend and I decided to take a walk. So we headed into the woods that were between the lake and my father's house. Because I had someone with me, we walked further than I would have ever been brave enough to walk alone. And it wasn't long before we started seeing areas I hadn't seen before. I was surprised and excited by the large, beautiful clearing we found. It was quiet, it was peaceful, and within walking distance of my home. We stayed there for several minutes and talked about turning around, but I couldn't. If this had been hiding from me, what else was out there? Somebody knows that feeling. I convinced him to continue forward with me, so we kept going. Over the next hill, around the next bend, driven mostly by my curiosity and supported by his friendly nature. At some point, I realized we were actually quite far from home, and I was at least a little bit responsible for him being there. And some fear started to weave its way through the inquisitiveness that drives me. So the internal negotiation began. Maybe one more bend, and we would go. It would be so easy to just turn around and follow the path we had taken, right? I just wanted to see one more new thing. When we reached the lake, a lake I knew well, but didn't recognize where we had come out, I thought, we might be in a tiny bit of trouble. We were both tired, and at this point, we were ready to be back at the house. And I knew what part of the lake was close to the house, and this wasn't that part. And we had gone around so many bends, I wasn't sure how to get to the correct part of the lake. Fear told me maybe we should follow the trail through the woods to get back home. But I also knew at this point our parents would be worried and I would be in trouble. Curiosity, exhaustion, and thirst quietly suggested that perhaps I could find that part of the lake I knew, and we would get home quicker. So we picked a direction and started walking. You might guess how that went. Unprepared for a walk like this, we hadn't brought any water with us. So you might imagine the additional challenge of walking next to a lake that one should not drink from while thirsty. As we walked, we saw a boat not far from shore. So we called out, asking them for help in finding our way. And maybe did they have some water? They gave us a direction, which ultimately did not lead home. And someone from on board jumped in the water and swam bottles of water over to us. I'll never forget that. I learned something in that moment about how people who have no obligation can connect with one another on that deep level. I'll never know if they understood exactly how much we needed that water and that connection. And it wasn't long, maybe another 20 or 30 minutes before we reached a ranger station. At that point, exhaustion and anxiety had silenced my curiosity, and we clearly weren't anywhere near my house. But we weren't alone, and the ranger drove us home. The experience remains a key moment in my youth. I learned some important things about myself and about other people. I learned how people can come together to help others even when they don't know them. I learned about the importance of community, especially when we are on a quest to explore something new. Experiences of transition, experiences where we aren't sure what's going to happen next, can give us insight into who we are and how we can move forward, especially when times are tough. Many of you probably have similar stories, maybe not around a lake, but times when you were on a particular path but found yourself somewhere you didn't expect to be, and where you needed to rely on others to help you find your way. There are elements of many great stories, religious and secular. The archetypes or patterns are familiar. We have the explorer ready to head off on a quest, Captain Janeway and her starship struggling to get home, but exploring and making connections on the way. We have Moses leading the Israelites toward the promised land. We have faithful companions always ready with support, Samwise Gamgee in The Lord of the Rings, and Ruth in the Hebrew story of Ruth and Naomi. We have the encounter with peril, the moment in the story when things begin to look uncertain. The Israelites wander in the desert for 40 years. We have the helpers who appear with much needed resources and guidance. Yoda trains Luke Skywalker. A little boy offers Jesus and the disciples 5 loaves and 2 fish. We know these archetypes because we've heard these stories and because we've lived them. And we pass along such stories as a source of courage and renewal for uncertain times. What does that mean for us as a congregational community? When I started as your minister on August 1st, we began a period of interim ministry together. Interim ministers hold a unique place with a church. We are companions for a period of the unknown. We journey with you under tree and over rock, around the next bend and along the lake. We also come with a time limit. I will be with you only a short time, and by the end of that time, you will have a much better idea of where you want to go and what ministry might suit you next. But what of our time together? Transitions, times when we aren't sure what's next, can be times of powerful renewal as we examine our identity and our connections to those around us. During an interim ministry, it's the minister's responsibility to work with the congregation on some goals. And included in those are a set of 5 tasks. So I'm going to share briefly about each of those 5 tasks today. The first task of interim ministry is exploring our heritage. How was the congregation shaped and formed? What gifts have we received from those who have gone before? Is there anything we need to come to terms with in our past? If we're journeying together into the unknown, this might look like taking stock of our current resources and how they've been shaped by our experiences. If you have a moment sometime today or even right now, I'd love for you to write down a gift and a challenge this congregation carries from its past. And I'd love to see what you think about. The next task of interim ministry centers around leadership. Are the same 7 people on all the committees and I heard a laugh, and doing most of the work of the congregation? Are there people who want to move into leadership, but they aren't sure how, or they don't want to be overwhelmed, or they don't feel like there's room for them? The transition time when we are in the unknown is that time of renewal. Are the leaders of the congregation being fed spiritually? Do you go to a meeting excited or with dread? Now's the time for us to check in, to consider if renewal and connection are a part of how we lead this community. This time allows some leaders to step back or try on different roles, while others can move forward. Alongside heritage and leadership, the third task of interim ministry is to explore our mission, our identity as a congregation. This is the chance to see who we are in a new way. It's one of the most significant opportunities we find in transitional time, because things are different. Even when we aren't experiencing national unrest and the lingering effects of and impacts of global pandemics, we can consider what is core to who we are. I like to call this task finding our arrow. Do we have a direction that we are heading together that is true, even when things are uncertain? Or have we gotten distracted by our concerns, by our trauma, by our routines, or by something else? What is central to who we are together and how we will move forward into the future? During our time together, we will check in with ourselves about our collective identity. Our mission statement, which you see on the screen just before service every morning, is St. John's is committed to creating a safe and caring community, working for peace and social justice, and celebrating beliefs that respect freedom of thought. Does that remain a good guide for the direction we want to head as a congregation? Does it reflect how we want to be seen outside of our beautiful walls? How are we living our mission? If a visitor came in our doors, would they know our mission even if they couldn't say the words? Now, this task doesn't mean we have to change anything about our mission. It simply invites us to see how it aligns with what we've discovered about ourselves in this time. So we'll spend some of this time on this task as we ask ourselves questions and explore the answers we find. The fourth task of interim ministry is connections. This is the invitation to look at all the relationships our church builds outside of itself. Who are we helping, and who is helping us in times of need, in times of discovery, and in times where we just might feel a little lost? Are we participating in connections with other congregations in Cincinnati? And there are so many, it's wonderful. And in this region, are we connected to the Unitarian Universalist Association? I know several people went to General Assembly, the annual gathering of UUs from across North America this year, and you'll hear from some of them this coming week. And the board and staff and several committees seem to be keeping an eye on the resources offered by the UUA. Our congregation has a strong history of connecting with other agencies even as we maintain connections individually and as a community with other faith communities and community service agencies. But we'll continue to explore that. Are there things we want to do differently? So we have heritage, leadership, mission, and connections. And we have the final task of interim ministry, one that will be woven into all the other tasks. And that will be, how are we committing to new directions in ministry? It's the future. When I leave my time with you, what do you want the next part of your congregation's professional ministry to look like? What role might clergy have? What role will lay leaders have? Do you have a clear sense of the kind of professional minister you'd like to journey with after the interim period? If you were lost by a lake in the woods, who would you want next to you? The interim period isn't always an easy time. You haven't done an interim ministry for nearly a decade, but there's so much potential in this time. Change and transitions give us a chance to get a new perspective on everything we've done together. I look forward to being on this journey with you. And before I close, I want to share this poem by Cynthia Rowland with you titled, God Got in a Boat. God got in a boat and said, wow. She'd never actually floated in a boat, though. She'd seen people on the water and told herself she'd have to try that someday. But water had always bored her until she started seeing people having fun on it. So one day she got in a boat and said, wow, and headed out across the lake, and the whole world looked different. She couldn't get over it. It didn't look anything like it looked from the sky, or from the ground, or even from inside a whale, which she'd tried once or twice. She sat in the boat and was surprised how much sense it all made. All the little houses, all the green trees, and all the tidy cities, and all the sky and all the land, it all made sense. And she was surprised because really, she'd just been winging it. My beloved spiritual companions, together we will explore what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist church in such a time as this. We'll move together through what is bound to be a contentious November election. We will celebrate joys and grieve concerns together. We will check in with who we are as a community. We'll see if we're going in the direction we want to go. We'll examine our history and what gifts and challenges it offers to us. And we'll celebrate all that you have accomplished. And at the end, when this part of the journey is complete, we will be surprised at how much sense it all makes. I'm so glad to be on this journey with you. Blessed be. Amen.
We are going to sing hymn 131. Please stand as you're willing or able.
On
Just going to bring your attention to your order of service where we have announcements. I'm just going to highlight a couple. Found House's emergency shelter program will stay with us 1 week in October. Please review your announcements, and there is a link there to sign up for support. Let's see. Lively After 50, I think it is, LAFS, right? August dinner will be at D. Shays on August 18th at 6 p.m. Please let Ann Septic know by the 15th if you want to attend. And we do have our partner church lunches scheduled for this fall and winter. Please mark your calendars and make sure you show up for those. Those are fantastic.
I guess it's me again. Hey. We're going to now sing the closing hymn, 318, We Would Be One. So please rise and body your spirit.
Roads go ever, ever on, over rock and under tree. May we be curious enough to journey forward, knowing we will find companions on the way and can always find our way home. Go in peace, go in love. Blessed be.